I'm just going to faff a minute while I just see if anyone hops on and joins me. I know I'm live and I know I've got comments switched on. Just alter that camera angle so I don't look like I've got a halo with my light fitting. I've got a new phone as well, so I'm just trying to work out where the camera is, and I think instead of looking at the screen I'm trying to look at the camera. So I'll just give it a moment or two and just see if anyone hops on. Oh hi, it's Maxine, hello. Oh, so I can see a couple of people are watching, so hi Maxine. There's always a delay. So, and I think Diane's watching, and Sylvia, that's fantastic, that's great. So I knew I was live because I trust the little red thing that tells me I'm live here. So hello and welcome to Izzy's Crafty Bees. I'm Izzy Shashinsky. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in the UK. In fact, I'm in the Midlands, I'm in Nottinghamshire near Retford. And so I'm trying to get back into the swing of doing a regular live session. I'm aiming for sort of weekly at the moment. I've had a bit of a break because I had a few tech issues. My old phone was absolutely dying and the battery just wouldn't stay. So I felt quite apprehensive about going live. Hi Lorna, hi Sylvia. But I've got a new phone and I'm feeling confident again, so let's try and do some live. So I'll be here this evening doing this live, and then next week I've actually got my in-person class here actually in the next village, so I won't be doing a live next week. And then the week after I'm going to Vienna to on stage live. I can't believe it, I'm just so excited. 2 weeks time Lorna and I will be in Vienna. We might be drinking cocktails somewhere, who knows, but we'll be in Vienna and on Thursday in 2 weeks time, 2 weeks tomorrow, we'll actually be at the onstage, Stampin' Up! On stage event. It's so exciting, oh so exciting. So anyway, let's crack on with this evening. So this evening I've got a fun project. Well, I'm hoping it's fun. I've had a couple of packs of these craft boxes for a little while and not done anything with them. Just haven't had the opportunity, and so I thought I'd share with you what I've done. I've decorated a couple of them. I've made one into a shaker and I'm going to show you how I made a shaker. I keep looking up there because my old camera was up there and I should be looking here. Hello, sorry about that, out of practice, we'll get on with it. So let me switch my phone round. Camera, oh my goodness, how do I do that? Oh, there it is. I found the button. I'm going to switch my camera around and we'll do some sort of wiggly wigglies. I've still got my old phone stand, so that's good. That should still be working. I'm just going to tighten that up a bit. Smashing. So we've got a bit of reflection because we've got a window sheet on these boxes. I've got 2 lamps on, so we should have enough brightness. If I just show you these boxes. So the first one I decorated was this one. And I made it into a shaker panel. It's ever so easy. And as soon as I saw these boxes with a window panel, I thought they would make really easy shakers. And I've just tied a bit of this lovely broad ribbon round. It will just simply slide off. And you can see how I used a second label just to anchor my fancy bits. Just slides off and then the boxes open like so. So really quite simple. Quite a flat box. They lend themselves to being presentation boxes for cards, so you can make, I would reckon they would fit about 5 cards and envelopes inside, so that would be one use for them. I thought that they would be, let me just slide that back on, I thought they'd be nice for a good bar of chocolate would fit in, maybe wrapped in some tissue, make a little quick thank you present for somebody. I've decorated this one with a tag with thank you on. This one I've made, I haven't done a shaker, but I've actually stamped the window using Stays On. Now we have 2 colours of Stays On. regular black stays on, and we also have saddle brown, which has come out quite yellow. It's quite an amber colour, and I can show you how I stamped that. I may just stamp a second box. I'm going to replicate this one in some kind of form and show you how I did the shaker, and I will grab another box because I've got a couple of packets. Same again with this one, I just tied a ribbon round so it's exactly the same, but with this one I also stamped the box, so that's an option. These are made from Kraft, quite nice thick Kraft card, quite substantial once they're made up. So without further ado, let's crack on. Oh, I should say that Pinky Craft Ted is here. He's behaving himself. And I also want to just do a quick resume of what's going on at the moment. So if you know where to order from, if you're watching on catch up, izzy'scraftybees.stampinup.net is my online store. And at the moment, today is the 26th, I think, of October. New host code. This will probably be around for a month or so. Always check on my Facebook page for the most up-to-date host code. But if you're shopping online and your order is anywhere up to well, £149, use this host code. If you have £99 to spend and you fancy getting £55 worth of product for free, I'll just say that again, until Monday the 31st of October, £55 worth of product for free by spending £99, then why not be a kit napper and join my team and nap the kit? You also get free postage and packing. And if you have any questions, it doesn't matter how silly a question you think it is, please drop me a note, a message, and I will answer your questions. Hello, Mum, have you sneaked on? Hello, you said you were watching telly this evening. Bless my mum. She's already seen me make these boxes because we had a crafty chat the other day. But thank you for joining me. Right, I'm sitting now. I'm going to just move Pinky out of the way and I'm going to grab some supplies. So, bit of rattling. These lovely Kraft Gift Boxes come flat packed and they come in packs of 10. They are in, I'm going to run out of desk space here, they are in the annual catalogue and they are in our Wrap It Up section, which is all about packaging. They come in boxes of 10 and they are £9.50 for 10 of these sturdy boxes. So that's where to find them. Let me just move my samples out of the way. And so they come flat packed. They've got self-adhesive tape on all the points that you need to glue them together. So they couldn't be easier. If you like a box and you like to decorate a box, but you're not confident with measuring and scoring, or actually you just want something straight out of the pack that you can stick together, then these are ideal. One thing I do want to point out, they have this lovely window on the lid, and I'm not sure if this comes across on camera, probably doesn't, but when you first look at it, it doesn't look really super clear, and that is because they have one of those protective backings on. I'm just going to scratch it up and it peels off really easily, and that's to stop the window from getting scratched until you actually want to use it. So I think it's worth me pointing that out because now the window is super clear and lovely and shiny. Now all of the score lines are there for you to burnish yourself, so what I would suggest is that you go ahead and burnish all of these. Like I said, you can stamp straight on these. These are like your proper traditional craft cardstock. It has quite a nice matte, rough, not rough, but you know what I mean, it's not super shiny. Now, I meant to check in the catalogue. I don't believe that these are food safe, but let me just double check. We do provide packaging that... oh yes, it does actually state food safe. So that's another fabulous use for them. You could make some biscuits. You wouldn't get something like brownies in them because it's not a deep box. But biscuits certainly, maybe gingerbread biscuit, you know, gingerbread person biscuit would go nicely at this time of year. Halloween treats. I mean, I don't do much crafting for Halloween, to be honest. I actually quite like Halloween as a festival, but more sort of like the traditional Halloween than the modern trick-or-treat stuff. So what should we do with this? Shall we actually decorate the outside before I stick it together? So what I was inspired to do, because I noticed we have a clearance rack on our online shop where some items come back that have been retired, and I noticed that this lovely Harvest Meadow 12 by 12 designer series paper had popped back up on the clearance rack, and I'd actually kept the remainder of my pack at home. I have been gifting a lot of my designer series paper to a certain lovable parent. My mum is so lucky, she's got so much DSP, and this is what I had left, and the reason I kept this was just I loved it so much. You can see some of the lovely, mostly yellow left over, because yellow's not one of my favourite colours. Blue is one of my favourite colours, but I thought that these colours went really well with the craft of the gift box. So let's have another look at that box. Let's pick something vibrant, and we'll do another shaker card. So on my original I used the one with the script. I think it's sort of soft succulent, or it might be mint macaron. So let's choose a different colour. Let's have something vibrant, and we'll go with the same sort of sequins. I quite like this one actually, that colour with the bits of, if I've got a piece of that. Oh yes, I have. This one. That looks quite nice underneath. So let's go with that one. What size is that? Oh, look in the pack. Perfect. Let's pop all these to one side, out of the way. You might have noticed that I do away with my crinkly, sticky wrappers for my DSP, and I've actually invested in a pack of 100 vinyl LP covers. They're not expensive. I think it cost me about 13 quid for 100, and they're just so much better for keeping your DSP in. I find that cellophane's really annoying, crinkly. The sticky strip just sticks to everything. So yeah, the first thing you need to do if you're going to make a shaker is find a piece of either coordinating DSP to go behind, or a piece of cardstock that you like to go behind the window. Then we need to trim it down to size. Now I could trim it to the full size of the lid, but I'm actually going to trim it to just a bit bigger than this window. I'm going to grab my trimmer. Oh, I was thinking about decorating the box, wasn't I? So I'm going to use Nature's Harvest, the stamp set, still current, and I'm also going to use the Harvest dies that coordinate. But let's first of all just cut this piece down. I'm going to need my ruler, and I'm going to just measure the piece of cellophane or window that's behind. So it's 10.5 by 13.5 centimetres. So I'm going to make that exactly the same size. 13.5 by 10.5. And I know now that that will fit just behind that window. Let's pop that to one side. Let's have a think about decorating the outside. I can leave that DSP there so I get the idea of what it's like. I think I'm going to stamp and die cut exactly the same pieces, but perhaps we can pop another image onto the box just to see what it looks like stamped. So how about we go with this small daisy, and we can stamp that in something sort of neutral. Let's just grab a block. That should just fit on that block. And perhaps if we're thinking about the die cut pieces being here, maybe I could just decorate and do some stamping. Let me have a think. I don't want it to look ridiculous. Do a little bit of stamping perhaps just behind, so it kind of looks like that bunch of flowers is growing. So I can just stamp maybe a few images here. I just wanted you to see what the craft box actually stamps like. So I'm just going to grab, I've got Early Espresso to hand because I used that here. on the label. So let's do, shall we do early espresso? Shall we go a bit paler? Actually, do you know what I'm going to bring in? I am actually going to grab my Stays On Saddle Brown, because it doesn't get an outing very often, and it's possibly even overlooked in the catalogue. We tend to reach for Stays On Black as a general Stays On, but we do sell this saddle brown colour. It's more of a sort of tan brown. This is actually just handy. Next to me, a piece of basic white. So if I was to just stamp that for you, you'll see what kind of brown it stamps. It's quite a chestnutty brown, really. It's certainly not dark. So let's just stamp the box a couple of times. Just wanted you to see, I don't actually want it to go on the window, so I'm going to just try and mask that. Let me see what I can grab. Got some post-it stickers somewhere. Just grab a little post-it sticker. Sorry, this is a little bit of thinking on feet. I'm just going to try and cover that window up a little bit, and we'll just have some of those daisy heads just showing there. Just wanted to show you what it looks like stamped on the actual box, and the box takes ink really well, I think is the point that I'm trying to make by doing that. It takes ink really nicely. It's quite an absorbent cardstock. So let's get on to the main demonstration. I wanted to show you how I made the shaker section. So we've already got our window sheet glued in place. Brilliant. We don't need to worry about that. What we need to think about is we need to form a pocket into which we can put something that's going to shake about. Now, I'm a bit short of loose sequins that are current. We've got this gorgeous tub. I'll just quickly find them because they're quite near the boxes. They're just here. This gorgeous For Everything fancy sequins box, and it's actually 3 big boxes, sort of this size, of different sequins and loose pearls and rhinestones. You can see them photographed up close here. They are absolutely gorgeous, but I haven't got any yet. I have seen them demonstrated, and I've been meaning to add them to orders and thought, well, do you know what, I haven't got a project in mind. Then when this cropped up, I thought, oh, that would be perfect, wouldn't it? But I have got these that are retired, just hanging around, and those colours will work for me. In fact, I might just grab the other ones. I think they came with like silver and gold, yellow and orange, so I might stick with the silver and gold and miss the green out. And then they also came with, what else did they come with? Some reds. So we'll just go with these colours. Might as well use them up. The other thing that you're going to need is our foam adhesive strips. So you'll find those in the adhesive section of the catalogue. And these are basically like our dimensionals, so foam adhesive, double-sided, but in strips. I've got some lengths here that I think will just do for this project. Let me just see. So I need one for there. I think I can piece it together, but you can see they come ready cut in long strips. So I'll just pop those to one side. And one of the things that I find when I do a shaker is the edges of these can tend to have a little bit of sort of sticky residue. So I often will use my embossing buddy, which is actually just on the shelf up here. So I use my embossing buddy, and I'll lift some of the powder from the embossing buddy and use a brush. So just any brush will do, and I happen to have a paintbrush that I kind of keep, or a really old aqua painter that's a bit scruffy, or a kid's paintbrush, any kind of brush. But what we need to do is, we know that our piece of DSP is exactly the same size as the window sheet, and we need to form a pocket with our strips. So I'm going to take this long one, this big long one first, and I'm going to just lay that down. and then snip it where I want it to finish. And I'm going to form, see if that's long enough for the other side. I think that's just going to be nice and long for the other side. And I use these other bits here. And you need to make sure, if you've got little bits that you're putting in your shaker, gosh, could that have worked out any better? That you make sure you don't have any gaps. So even if you run, this one's going to run on an angle, look. I could run it on an angle up to there, it doesn't matter, you're not going to see it, or I could join it up to that side. Just make sure you don't have any gaps because you don't want any of your bits to escape. So I'm saying that if you've got beads, little fine beads you could use. I have got some of the other effervescent elements, so they're really great if you're using the bottle dome, shaker dome. They're really super to go in there. So I've got some of those. The other thing, oops, that you can use in shakers, gosh, I'm throwing them about, is, you know, the silica little sachets that you get in things to keep things dry, new shoes, for example. If you put them in a little tub and you add a few drops of re-inker and give them a swish, you can make little beads. Just be careful with them, obviously, if you've got kids around. Don't be leaving anything like that lying around because it is made with silica. But yeah, as crafters, sensible people that we are, you could use some punched out shapes if you've got some punches where you can punch out tiny shapes. Mum, I think you mentioned you were going to have a go with some shapes of leaves. So I'm now just going to take my dust bag and I'm going to try and give it a good tap on the plastic, and I'm going to just pick up some of that powder. I'm just going to run it round the edge. Oh, I knew if I didn't get a glass of water I'd start croaking. So I'm just going to pick up, and it is only a bit of that dust from the dust buddy, or whatever we call it. What do we call it? Embossing buddy. Dust buddy, I think that's a household appliance, is it not? And that should just stop any of the sequins sticking to the edge of this foam. So now we've formed a little well, and we can tip some sequins into that well to form our shaker. So we'll have some lovely yellow and orange ones, and let's put some silver and gold ones. I'm being really generous because these are retired, I don't often use them. Let's move those over. So I've got quite a good number of shaker elements in there. Now we can peel off the double-sided tape and pop our backing on, taking care not to cough or sneeze, obviously making sure we don't have friendly pussycats in our craft room. This would be so funny if Monty just jumped on the desk now. Pinky, what you doing? Be careful. Oh, you've got to have fun while you're crafting. Now remember that this is the piece, this is the side I want to see through the window. So I'm going to put that face down now onto our double-sided tape, our double-sided dimensional foam strip. And that's formed our shaker window. So when I turn it over, I've got my shaker window. Now what I didn't do was I didn't run my embossing buddy over the window, so there's still some static on that window. What I could have done was run my embossing buddy over the window, over the back side of the window, and then just carefully wiped it with a piece of kitchen towel to remove any of the dust that's inside the embossing buddy, the powder, and that can reduce some of the static. But I think you'll agree that that's quite an effective way of utilising that lovely window. I'm going to assemble the box and then we'll get on and do some decoration pieces, and I'll share with you how I did the two colours. Let's just bring the original back in. How I stamped and did the two colours on the flower. I'm just glancing at my box of preparation and realised I haven't actually got any cardstock in there, but no worries. I'm in my craft room. Everything's fairly close to hand. So these are just peel off self-adhesive pieces. I'm going to peel them all off at once. And then it's just a case of folding these up. Now a tip I would say is make sure they're nicely burnished, and remember that this is the lid, this is the base. So if you think of this as a tray and the lid closes over the base, so I want to make my base nice and tight, so really squared up. So I'm looking and just checking that these corners here are really nicely squared up. Same when I pull this forwards, I want to make sure that that's really nicely squared up before I actually stick it down. What I'm aiming for is for the lid to be just a tad bigger perhaps than the base, so that it will clamp and fold. So when I attach the lid, I'm actually looking, I tip it this way, to leave a little bit extra there. And that should ensure, by paying that attention to it, that when you close the lid, it will close nicely over the top. I do find that these bits flare out, but if you pinch them, give them a good pinch in, because it's nice sturdy cardstock, give them a good pinch in, and then they should, that's better. Now we've got our box with our shaker lid ready to add some more decoration to. I love shakers, I can't stop wiggling once I've done it. Okay, I'm just going to stand up and see if I've got any comments rolling up the screen. Oh, Monty is loving me shaking it. Monty! Monty! Oh, you're finishing your swaps. Crack on, Lorna, crack on. 2 weeks to go. I'm just going to grab some cardstock. It's just behind me here. Have a look. Well, actually, it was on the table behind me, not in the drawer. I'm in the middle of prepping for class next week as well, so I have got cardstock all over the place. Let's just grab a piece of, I actually used Very Vanilla for that one, but we'll go ahead and we'll use, sorry, I think I just knocked my camera. We'll go ahead and use some basic white. I'll just make sure I'm still in shot and straight. Sorry about that. I think we're good. I'm going to go ahead and use some basic white. I know it's a full sheet and I'm going to chop into it just for one flower, but you know, cardstock needs using, it needs chopping, so let's do it. I'm just going to chop a strip off there, and I can stamp that lovely flower. So I'm going to share with you, where's my flower gone? Oh, I was going to show you where the designer series paper and all of these beautiful things came from. So last year's seasonal mini, from last year, July to December 21, we had this gorgeous suite, the Harvest Meadow, and the stamp set and dies carried over, as did the embossing folder, the Time Worn type carried over, the brushed metallic adhesive backed dots carried over, so they're all in the annual catalogue. The cork speciality paper actually retired and we haven't seen that back, and the designer series paper retired, but that's just reappeared onto our clearance rack, and I just wanted to show you where that was from originally. So from a year ago it's popped back up onto the clearance rack. So sometimes we never say never, but it's quite rare to see things come back after a year. I was really chuffed to see that, so that's why I've left that catalogue out. So I'm going to use this big gorgeous echinacea type daisy flower from the stamp set, and I'm going to show you how I used 2 or 3 colours to actually stamp it. So I've brought my Stampin' Right markers and I've gone for Evening Evergreen, Cajun Craze and Pumpkin Pie. to stamp this, and the first thing I am going to do actually is give it a bit of a clean, because I don't think I've cleaned it from the first stamping. I'll just rub that on my Simply Chamois, make sure it's nice and clean. Now you may have seen me do this before, but it's worth a reminder because I don't often use my Stampin' Right markers. And did you know that these Stampin' Right markers are actually refillable? So unlike our alcohol markers, our blends, the square body, which are consumable, once they're actually gone and emptied and finished and dried up, we have to replace them. Our Stampin' Right markers are filled with our regular ink, so you can take a re-inker bottle and actually refill them. And the way you do that is by getting a pair of pliers and gently twisting this nib end, either end, just twisty twist, and you'll find that this end pops off. And inside is like a felt tip pen with that core, and you can add a few drops of re-inker to reinvigorate your markers. So there's a tip. So because the markers actually contain the very same ink that's on our ink pads, we can use them as a mini ink pad. So I'm going to use the brush end, and I'm going to hold the marker flat against the stamp, and I'm going to colour just the portions of the stamp that I want to be in that colour by just brushing that mini ink pad, which is the brush end, across the stamp. And this works really, really well with our red rubber or cling mount stamps. It does work with photopolymer, but you get better results with the cling stamps, I personally find. So I've done my stems in green. I'm going to do the big petals in fact I'm going to go over all of the flower with pumpkin pie. And these big daisy type flowers are in their element at the moment. They do flower very late on into autumn. The echinacea type flowers or the helenium type flowers in your perennial borders. I love them. I've got a helenium at the moment that's not dissimilar in colour to this. Really beautiful. And then I'm going to give it some contrast with some Cajun Craze just on that tip, and I'm just going to sort of maybe a bit of shading around the edge, and I think I added a bit underneath on this one here. Then the next thing I'm going to do before I actually stamp it is I'm going to huff it, because I inked up with green first and some of that green may have started to dry, so I'm just going to give it a as if I was misting my glasses to clean them, just a huff. And the moisture in your breath will just re-moisten that ink on your stamp pad. Normal stamping techniques, I'm putting the stamp to the paper, and I'm just holding it there with some even pressure, no rocking and rolling, no motion, just allowing that ink to sink in to the paper. And you can see how that's actually stamped those lovely multicolours in the flower heads. Now I'm going to go ahead and actually use a blender pen. So these are on our WOW page. I will find it for you in a second. And these are dual ended. So two ends exactly the same. And they're filled with a clear blendable sort of ink. And I'm going to just go over that ink. And all that will do is just smudge it and take away some of the white areas. It just gives an extra blend. And it's a tool that I think is used a lot less these days. We've really switched to using our alcohol marker blend pens. Now I'm using basic white cardstock, and I'm taking care not to rub too much with this blend. The ink inside is clear, but it's quite wet, and you need a piece of scrap paper to just scribble on after you've finished, and that just clears any residue of ink. I'm taking a bit of care not to scribble. I want to just smudge the ink and blend the ink. I'll hold it right close to the camera so you can see, but I don't want to scuff the cardstock. Basic white cardstock is very prone to scuffing up with any moisture. So basic white thick is much better. It will take on moisture. But because I'm not sort of scribbling round and round, I will hold that up to the camera and just share with you. Let me stand up so you can see. Let's let it focus. Come on, little camera. There you go. Now you can see how that's blended a little bit and taken away quite some of the stark white areas. Now I want you to see if you can see in this corner where I scribbled round and round, it's scuffed that basic white cardstock with the moisture. You can see how it's just pilled the cardstock and bobbled it. So we need to take care whenever we add a lot of moisture, which is why we don't use basic white cardstock for watercolouring. But it will take on just the moisture from these blender pens. It's just enough just to blend and smudge that ink, just to soften it so it's not quite as harsh. Maxine says, wow, so you like that technique of using the marker pens, and you can buy these in packs of colour families. So if you wanted to buy a colour family at a time, they do come in one massive pack, very expensive all in one go, but obviously if you've got a birthday coming up or a Christmas gift, it's a really nice purchase. So let's just take a quick look at those in the catalogue and let's just see if we can find them. So if we go to the colour families, we can see, here we go, let's have a look. Many Marvellous Markers for the whole pack of 40 colours is here on this assortment and bundles, but you can also buy Stampin' Right marker assortments per colour family, so brights, neutrals, regals and subtles, and then the in colours are half the price of the big colour families, because we get 10 colours in a colour family, 5 colours in the in colours. So they're £30 per colour family and £15 for the in colours. They're a nice addition. I don't use them an awful lot, but when I do use them, boy, they're really, really useful. So that's our pretty flower. I'm also going to grab the dies from the matching set of dies, and I'm going to grab this label. I'm going to grab some of these pieces to decorate the box with, and this outline piece here for the flower. Also in the pack is a long label, a standalone flower, and under here an outline for the little flower that we actually stamped earlier, so I could actually cut that out, and then a branch. This is quite a nice twiggy, spriggy twig, and it looks quite useful and effective when you cut that out of metallic cardstock. But for now I'm just going to use these three. I'll just pop that one to one side, but I'm going to pop it to one side in my metallic magnetic dish so I don't lose it. I'm going to bring in my big machine this evening, and I'm going to bring back in my DSP, and let's have a look at what scraps we had in the box, in the pack rather. So I've got some of that colour that could be useful, some of that colour not bright enough. Let me see, I've got some yellow there. Have I got any of the other yellow? They're all full sheets. So we'll go with a piece of yellow. Oh, that one actually, we'll go with that one, and we'll go with that one, and we'll pop all the rest to one side. Let's bring in my big machine, and I'm going to stand up and do a bit of die cutting. Notice my very old dirty plates, very well worn but still being used. And just to show you the durability of this machine, I used my machine in class. It gets abused. Somebody thought that this was a cutting plate, so it's been cut on, gets bashed about, but you know, so durable. I'm not precious when I do classes about my kit because it's there to be used. I'm demonstrating in a learning environment, and I want my customers who come to class to enjoy their class and not to have to worry about things. other than getting good results. So I'm really confident with Stampin' Up's equipment that it's durable. I'm just going to pop out these pieces I didn't pop out before. So I'm using a pokey tool, talking with a bit in my mouth. I'm using a pokey tool. Just these are these holes in the dies are designed for expelling pieces of cardstock. I'm just going to layer that there, and we'll just run through with 2 pieces. Just whisk that through. Yeah, after 10.5 years of teaching paper crafting in class environments, I've learnt not to be precious about my equipment, and I think that that demonstrates definitely demonstrates the durability. So that's a really pretty piece, look. I want 2 of those, so I'm going to pop that back in, and I want one of these pieces as well. Let's see, juggling for space. Let's get rid of some of this, and I can move that along. Come on, moving along, moving up the bed. There we go. Fit those pieces on, and we can wind this back this way. Fabulous. And just pop those. Throwing it on the floor. Just pop those on my desk, and just put the machine out of the way. I will need that again for the sentiment, but I'm just going to pop those dies in my magnetic dish, and then I know where they are. So I've now got some pretty die cut pieces. These pieces in particular I really love. They look like little ears of corn, and you can see that started to pop out. Now you need to take a bit of care when you're expelling some of these delicate pieces with little thin stems. How lovely are they? It's still gorgeous weather here today, really warm. I managed a lovely walk in my lunch break today, and set off with a body warmer on and ended up taking it off. I was absolutely boiled alive. So really easy now just to decorate this box. Just going to layer up these die cut pieces, just bunch them together. Let's make a nice, and you can, don't be afraid to snip some of them off. I'm going to just pull these together so they group a little bit better, these stems. Make it, you know, if I don't want them all the same length, I can pull them down a bit and just group them together like so, layered up. Let's see what they look like with that gorgeous flower on the top. Pretty. And that's those stamped pieces behind. And we can still see the shaker bits in the shaker. I'm going to use some of our ribbon. This is gorgeous ribbon. This, it ties really beautifully. It is the natural finish ribbon, really lovely and soft. And did you know you can actually stamp this? In fact, let's do it. Let's bring back in this flower and our Stays On Saddle Brown. I'll grab a piece of scrap, she said, from underneath my, just a piece of scratch paper. And let's have a look at what it's like when we stamp it. Stamp some pretty flowers. Looks nice. It just gives it a bit of pattern. How much do we need? I reckon we need about that much. Just guessing here. Chop that off. Let's see how quickly we can stamp a piece of ribbon. Oh. Well, I'm happy stamping ribbon. I'm I'm not boring you, but I'm happy as anything, me. How quick and easy is that? And I reckon you could stamp a sentiment on there. You know, you could stamp happy birthday all the way along. It's such a nice broad ribbon. It just has that kind of, it's so soft, but I want to say it's also got a smooth finish. That makes sense. Well, I wasn't planning on doing this, but there you go, spontaneity. There we are, nice patterned ribbon now. Pretty. And I think I'm right in saying that that dries instantaneously, that stays on. It's not transferring to my fingers anyway, so that's good. So what I did on my original one, just to adhere these to the actual box, I made life easy for myself by die cutting an extra label. So if I just grab my piece of white, what I've done with that, well I would if I hadn't buried it. What did I just do with that extra piece of white? Oh, goodness me. Here's the big piece. I did have them. Oh, there we are. Right next to me, right under my eyes. So I'm going to stamp thank you. And I stamped it originally in Early Espresso, so actually I will stick with Early Espresso because I've not cleaned my stamp. So let's stamp thank you. And then I can die cut the label and just fit. I was going to say just for speed, I will die cut over on my die cutting station, which is also full of stuff. It's like a crafter mat, and I haven't even finished. There's that cute die. So I'll die cut this piece. Just being careful. I've just noticed that smudgy. Thank you, Lorna. It does look fun, doesn't it? It looks nice, stamped. Just noticed that Early Espresso ink hadn't quite dried and I just touched it slightly, but I think I've got away with it. I'm actually going to die cut the thank you towards this end so I can actually punch a hole in it to thread some twine through. So I'm going to cut that sentiment, and then on the way back, I seem to have ink on that plate. I'm just going to cut another one of those. See, when I've run through the flower, some of the ink hadn't dried, so I've got ink on the underside of my plate. I didn't really need it to be specifically the label, but it's just something easy for the die cut pieces of flowers and stems to anchor to. And then I can assemble them on my desk rather than assembling them on the box. So what I did when I made my first one was I just got that blank label and popped some Stampin' seal on, or tape glue, just a line, and then I can quickly assemble these. And I do quite like these sort of pulled and pinched together. Lay them on like this, layered up with this pretty stem, and then my other piece of wheat, and again I'm just going to gather them together a bit, pop them on an angle that way, just lay it up. And if I want to, I can trim this end off, trim those ends of stems off, just so they're all the same. And then I'm going to pop that flower on the top, and to do that I think I'm going to add a little bit of extra Stampin' seal. Ooh, she says, just run that on the top. Messy stuff. Let's see if that will stick on. There we are, and that just makes that assembly a little bit easier to handle. And I can decorate my box like so. that down a bit and we can see that stamped. Pop my ribbon round. I'm going to actually stick that whole lot on now with Stampin' Seal, or I could use tear and tape. That's it. I could use glue dots. I could use Tombow, but Tombow is going to take an age to dry on the window sheet of the box. So better off using a tape glue, or as I call it, a dry glue rather than a wet glue. Pop my ribbon round. Do you know, before I came on air, I went and got changed because I felt a bit cold. I had a thin jumper on, and now I'm absolutely roasting. Oh, my flowers are upside down. Let's get my ribbon, put it the right way around. That's better. I'm going to tie this in a nice knot to one side. So, let me see if I can tie my knot in slow motion for you. So I'm going to pull that north and south. And then I usually do this, but I can see that I want that printed side. So I'm going to turn the ribbon, so I want the printed side to make a loop, and I want my loop to be north and south, so it's straight up. And then I'm going to wrap, and I want this printed side towards me. I'm going to wrap that round. Let me just try and lay that flat round, and it's going to come back through here, and then I can pull those two loops east and west. And I've just managed the ribbon so that I've got my printed side towards me. Now I'm going to faff and tweak and tweak and faff until I've got the knot at the right tension and the loops the right length, and the tails are laying flat. So bow tying is, I would say, 90% faff and 10% tying. Now I want that tail has got twisted, and I want it to lie. So I'm going to tweak it. I want the printed side towards me. So I'm going to boss it. I'm going to twist it, give it a twist. See if I can boss it so I can see the printed side. There we go. Oh, I'm quite happy with that printed ribbon, stamped ribbon. Quite like these frayed ends actually. Could tweak them. Anyway, I'm going to just punch a hole in my thank you tag. Got my trusty mini hole punch. And I'm going to grab some linen thread. That's done a bunk. Have a look. Got some linen thread here. And I just have a wee snip of linen thread. Yeah, I think on my original I've used very vanilla cardstock, and I've used very vanilla baker's twine. I'm just going to pop the linen thread through that hole. This is the bit that's always awkward on camera, isn't it? You can do it really easily when nobody's watching. Now I can actually tie the linen thread round the bow, just to finish that off. Have that dangling down there, and just tie that round the back of the bow with a couple of granny knots. Just a knot and a knot. And I could leave that linen thread tails just sort of loose like that. I'll tuck them under here, bring them back round. It's all the faffing and the finishing touches, isn't it? There we go. And that's another gift box. Decorated. Cute. I like it. Now Now something else I wanted to decorate these boxes with, and I still haven't done, and I'm not going to this evening, but I just wanted to show you. I've buried them. Oh, here we are. Oh, I will bring back this box and show you how. I will actually show you how I stamped and coloured that window, but I may not decorate the whole box. I did want to show you these leaf label and amber gem combo pack. These are in the mini catalogue. Look at those gems, they're just so lovely. And you get, how many leaves do you get in here? Oh, 50 leaves, I think. I haven't counted them actually. And they're craft as well, and I thought they'd go really nicely. And I also had an idea for running them through an embossing folder and adding some gold to the edges with gilded leafing. But I haven't done it, and I've already been nearly an hour on. I don't want to take up more of your evening, but I will share with you. I'll find the pack of, what have I done with them? Oh, here we go. I'm just going to share with you how I actually coloured that window. So first thing I did was take off that peel off backing. So just give it a scratch and then it comes, that protective backing. Next thing I did was actually take my stamp. So let's use this one. I'm going to clean it, because at the moment it's got regular ink on, and I'm going to actually stamp it with Stays On Saddle Brown. So that should be nice and clean now. So it stays on ink, so you can actually stamp Stays On ink onto things like window sheet. You can stamp ceramic, glass, all kinds of material, wood, and it will stay in place. Now what you have to do, lots of bits on there from die cutting. What you have to do is remember that this is window, and when you stamp you need to be very careful not to slip and get that slippy wiggly line. So stamp it down. Oh, I've just realised I've stamped that on the inside. I'm trying to get rid of that annoying bit that's come from die cutting. Can you see that static? I'm not even touching that. That's actually static. I think it's on the outside. It is on the outside. How annoying. So I'm waiting for that to dry. I've just realised I've actually stamped that on the inside. I should have stamped that on the outside. I'm such a clot. Let's do that again. Let's get another box. Let's do that again. Think before acting. Right, let's start again. Peel off the protective sheet. I won't waste that box. I will use it. Then turn it over, and we want to stamp our image on the outside with Stays On, and you can use Stays On Black, you can use Stays On Saddle Brown. Both are available in the annual catalogue. So let's stamp it on the outside this time. Being careful not to slip. And I'm going to pop a piece of, let me just find a piece of scrap paper that's white. Just get a piece of printer paper, just so you can see that image better. So now you can see the image has been stamped, and it looks really nice in saddle brown next to the craft. But I want to add colour to this. Now to add colour, you can't use Stampin' Write markers, because these are water based. So if I try and add Stampin' Write marker colour to the window sheet, it's water based, it's not going to dry, it's not going to settle. You can't use that ink. You can use alcohol ink, because alcohol ink will colour window sheet, but you can't colour inside the lines of a stamped image with alcohol and Stays On solvent based ink. So what we can do is cleverly, which is why I had it the other way around, first time is actually add colour to the back side. So if I grab a couple of markers, I'm going to grab Pumpkin Pie and Calypso Coral, and let me grab a green as well. I found that Parakeet Party showed up better on the other one. So you can actually add colour to the back behind the stays on and it won't smudge. So I'll just colour those petals. You can colour it really quickly. You don't have to take too much time doing this. And I'm hoping this is going to come out nicely on camera. You never know. I'm going to add a bit more of a contrasting colour there. Maybe a bit more Pumpkin Pie. Let's add some green to those stems. Yeah, I tried Old Olive, but even dark Old Olive didn't seem to... Oh, it's not too bad with this image. There we go. So you just need to remember that if you can do this technique as well with vellum. So if you want to add some colour to vellum and a stamped image, you can stamp with stays and colour behind. So there we go. Now we can look at the front of the box. You can see some of that stays on wasn't quite dry. It's always best to leave it. So now we've stamped the window of the box, and that looks really pretty as well. So just another way of adding some colour, and that's exactly what I did with this one. I stamped the leaves and then I actually added an embossed piece. I don't know if that's coming up. I got a piece of basic white that I'd embossed, stamped to B as well because you have to, it's the law. And I stamped the box as well. So you can decorate. I could decorate this box in a really pretty way. I seem to have picked up some black bits, but I don't want to. Yeah, there you go. Don't want to smudge it. So yes, so the stays on was stamped on the front. Flip it over and add your alcohol marker colour behind. So there you go. Another way of decorating your box. So I hope you've enjoyed that. There's so many possibilities. I feel like I'm really on a roll, so watch out. I think Mum hinted that she might like some, this would be a really useful size box for me to send her some tickets for a cruise inside. And you can imagine how I laughed at her sense of humour. But yeah, they're a really nice size box. Let me just have a look at those dimensions again with you. Not too deep. Perfect size for cards. Let me just grab a card. So here's a card I made earlier. Perfect size for your regular cards with envelopes. So they'd make a nice gift. Make some matching cards with envelopes, and they'd be a nice gift to give to somebody with. I reckon it'd take maybe 5 or 6 cards and envelopes in here. A good bar of chocolate, I'm just saying, a good bar of chocolate would fit in there. And they are food safe, so if you bake some biscuits, maybe a gingerbread person, being politically correct there, would fit in one of these boxes. Quite nice. They'd be nice for craft fairs. Maxine, I know you do some craft fairs. They'd be nice gift boxes to fill with cards, note cards and envelopes, thank you cards and such. Or even a set of ready-made birthday cards. I reckon people would buy those really well at a craft fair. Certainly would be nice for gifting, gift vouchers or money decorated. And last year, if you remember, or if you didn't even see and you want to go back, we had some other gift boxes that I decorated to look like a pretend book. And so I'm thinking of having a go at doing a pretend book with these as well. But that's all for this evening. I'm just going to say goodbye and I will switch my camera around. Who said that? Was that Mum? I didn't hear that I was heat embossing. Was that Mum? That's funny. Oh dear. Let me sit down. You got to have a bit of fun, haven't you? We had a giggle the other day.